Hi, everyone, and welcome to Learning and Mending She Braids Together. I'm Jen, and I thought we'd start this evening with just a quick introduction, um, who we are, where we're calling from, and the pronouns, and what we're working on tonight. So I'm Jen. I use she, her pronouns. I also have Fig in my lap, who may or may not be visiting during this session tonight. I will be working on this yellow rumped warbler. I'm nearing the finish line. I'm at the top of his head, and I'm very excited to complete this one and start another one. And I will pass it to Lee Adams.
Hi, I'm Lee Adams. I'm calling from Altadena, she, her pronouns, and I'm working on a mosaic stepping stone. And I will pass it to Anjali.
I'm calling in from my phone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm Anjali. I am calling in from unceded Tongva and Tatavian land in Van Nuys, California. And I am going to be working on some altar organization tonight with the things I have on my altar, such as rocks and special things. I'm going to pass it on to Emily.
Thank you so much. Emily here in the Echo Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. Happy to be with you. My pronouns are she and her. And I am going to be helping out with technology tonight, as well as some audio visual meditation and stimuli. And yes, thank you so much for having me. Let me pass it over to my friend Izzy.
Hello, everyone. I'm calling from East Hollywood. My name is Izzy. My pronouns are they, she. And tonight I'll be working on this underground, one of the embroideries from the underground series. And I will pass it to Diego. Nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see everyone. It's been a long time since I've gotten to be on one of these. My name is Diego. I'm calling from Altadena, and today, my pronouns are he, him, and today I'm probably just going to be drawing. We do our reading. I'm not sure if I missed anyone introduce themselves before I got here, so Olan, if you haven't gone yet, I'm passing it to you.
Hi, I'm Olan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling from West Hollywood. I'm working on this underground extravaganza of the golden threads and looking forward to hearing what we're going to have read today. And I will pass it on to Alexandra Ionescu.
Hi, I'm Alex or Alexandra. I'm calling from Providence, Rhode Island. I go by she, her, and today I'm working on repairing my shirt. Nice to meet everyone. Hi. Sorry, I will pass it on to, I'm not sure who is next. If someone can help me or just
Sure. I'll hop in. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. I'm calling in from Topanga, California. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm working on my old friend that I haven't touched for a while, the raven. And I will pass it on to Ansu.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to be back here. I'm Ansu. I go by she, her. I'm calling from Eagle Rock. It's very nice to be here and to see you. I am going to pick this up but I'm going to be practicing a stitch I have not yet perfected. It's called a basket stitch. Jen, you pointed that would be a good framing stitch. So I'm going to work on practicing that tonight.
I
And
can't wait
I'm
to
going
see
to,
it.
yeah, I'm going to push it on to Millie.
Good evening, everybody. It's a happy, really beautiful little sunset happening outside. I'm just getting in and I will be working on some last minute edits on a newsletter we're trying to put out. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm super stoked to be reading this, this book with you. I will pass it on to Diego Blanco. Good to see you, Diego.
Hi, Millie. It's really good to see you too. I already introduced myself though.
Let me pass it on to Dee. Hey, Dee.
Hi, DeRainer. I go by she, her pronouns, calling in from Baldwin Hills, California. And I am working on this native sunflower and pollinator. I haven't gotten very far yet, but that's what I'll be working on tonight. Excited to be here tonight and looking forward to the readings. And I will pass it on to Alex.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone. I'm Alex. I'm going to be here at home. I'll do a little bit of cooking and then I'll be embroidering with everybody. So I will be seeing you soon embroidering. I'll pass this on to Sharon. Maybe. Okay. I can pass it to Roxanne.
Hi, everybody. I'm afraid I can't really do this because of the room I'm in. She, her pronouns. And I think I'm going to mend a sweater because I can't find my raven. And I will pass it on to, to Vicky.
Hi, I'm Vicky. I'm calling you from Santa Monica, California, and I'm not working on anything right now. And I'm she, her pronouns. And I'm going to pass it, if she's already gone, to Olan Jones. Have you gone, Olan?
Actually, I will take it over.
I have, yeah.
I'll take it over from here. And if you didn't have an opportunity to introduce yourself or share what you're working on tonight, there will be time later on this evening. So welcome again to Learning and Mending. Since the pandemic began, Metalbox Studio has moved our weekly open studio practice to Zoom. This is our 7th syllabus, and connecting all of them is the embroideries we continue to make and collect of the living systems we discover as we regenerate the floodplain we're salvaging on Gabrielino land. If you need another or have not received an embroidery kit from us featuring native plants, birds, microscopic organisms that Metalbox Studio is currently cultivating on its project sites, please send your name and mailing address to info@metabolicstudio.org. She Braids Together follows syllabi on abolitionist writing, Fires of the West, Anna Sing's The Mushroom at the End of the World, Fritjof Krappa's Web of Life, and The Commons. This time around, we'll be focusing on one text, Braiding Sweetgrass. Robin Wall Kimmerer explores our more than human teachers and braids indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the wisdom of plants to tell us stories about the world. The world that is opened up to us through this text is the commons in the truest sense. It is a world of reciprocity and careful listening. Thank you, Izzy Santana, for interweaving Tending the Commons and She Braids Together by curating this selection from Kimmerer's book. This series, even more than our earlier ones, is exploring a non-didactic hierarchical model. Please join us by both reading selections and guiding the discussion afterwards collectively. As in earlier syllabi, we suggest this book be read together aloud. When you hear a pause in the reading, please feel free to unmute yourself and begin where the last person left off. You don't have to read. We also welcome you to enjoy a gentle and supportive space of listening. We invite you to stand at the precipice of Zoom's silence and stare it down. Even relish the charged silence of crafting together. Our evening will close revealing the embroidery of the week and an interpretive offering from our collection of videos. Thank you, Emily Lacey, for this offering. Each week on social media, we are sharing photographs of native prairie grasses by Jim Richardson, courtesy of the Beach Museum at Kansas State University. Thank you to Linda Duke, curator at the Beach Museum, for coordinating the Writing by Kansas State University's community. We will share more about these grasses in the chat bar. And now I will pass it over to Izzy, and she will begin tonight's reading.
Thank you, Jen. So tonight we are reading The Gift of Strawberries from Braiding Sweetgrass. And this is one of my favorite chapters in the book. It's really beautiful, and who doesn't love strawberries? But in this chapter, Kimmerer looks at the gift economy as an alternative to capitalist-based relations through a story of strawberries. And so unlike the capital-driven, one-sided exchange that takes place under capitalism, the gift economy operates via reciprocity. And so Kimmerer argues that in order to understand our world as a gift, instead of a commodity, is how we may begin to make our world sacred again. So yeah, tonight, some of the key words are gift economy, reciprocity, and yeah, I'm really excited to read this with you all. So thank you, Emily, for screen sharing tonight.
Sure, because I'm disconnected. Thanks, Izzy. Just a moment. I'm just going to pull it up here. I love the title of this chapter. Oops.
Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start off. The Gift of Strawberries. I once heard Evan Peter, Gwich'in man, a father, a husband, an environmental activist, and chief of Arctic Village, a small village in northeastern Alaska, introduce himself simply as a boy who was raised by a river, a description as smooth and slippery as a river rock. Did he mean only that he grew up near its banks? Or was the river responsible for rearing him, for teaching him the things he needed to live? Did it feed him, body and soul? Raised by a river. I suppose both meanings are true. You can hardly have one without the other. In a way, I was raised by strawberry fields of them, not to exclude the maples, hemlocks, white pines, goldenrod, asters, violets, and mosses of upstate New York. But it was the wild strawberries beneath dewy leaves on an almost summer morning who gave me my sense of the world, my place in it. Behind our house were miles of old hayfields, divided by stone walls, long abandoned from farming, but not yet grown up to forest. After the school bus chugged up our hill, I'd throw down my red plaid book bag, change my clothes before my mother could think of a chore, and jump across the creek to go wandering in the goldenrod. Our mental maps had all the landmarks we kids needed. The fort under the sumacs, the rock pile, the river, the big pine with branches so evenly spaced you can climb to the top as if it were a ladder, and the strawberry patches. White petals with a yellow center, like a white little wild rose. They dotted the acres of curl grass in May during the flower moon. Wabiguani geeses. We kept good track of them, peeking under the trifoliate leaves to check their progress as we ran through on our way to catch frogs. After the flowers finally dropped its petals, a tiny gray nub appeared in its place. And as the days got longer and warmer, it swelled to a small white berry. These were sour, but we ate them anyway, impatient for the real thing.
You could smell ripe strawberries before you saw them, the fragrance mingling with the smell of sun on damp ground. It was the smell of June, the last day of school, when we were set free, and the strawberry moon, Odi mini gisis. I'd lie on my stomach in my favorite patches, watching the berries grow sweeter and bigger under the leaves. Each tiny wild berry was scarcely bigger than a raindrop, dimpled with seeds under the cap of leaves. From that vantage point, I could pick only the reddest of the red, leaving the pink ones for tomorrow. Even now, after more than 50 strawberry moons, finding a patch of wild strawberries still touches me with a sensation of surprise, a feeling of unworthiness and gratitude for the generosity and kindness that comes with an unexpected gift, all wrapped in red and green. Really? For me? Oh, you shouldn't have. After 50 years, they still raise the question of how to respond to their generosity. Sometimes it feels like a silly question with a simple answer: eat them. But I know that someone else has wondered these same things. In our creation stories, the origin of strawberries is important. Sky Woman's beautiful daughter, whom she carried in her womb from Sky World, grew on the good green earth, loving and loved by all other beings. But tragedy befell her when she died giving birth to her twins, Flint and Sapling. Heartbroken, Sky Woman buried her beloved daughter in the earth. Her final gifts, our most revered plants, grew from her body. The strawberry rose from her heart. In Potawatomi, the strawberry is Ode Min, the heartberry. We recognize them as the leaders of the berries, the first to bear fruit.
Strawberries first shaped my view of a world full of gifts simply scattered at your feet. A gift comes to you through no action of your own, free, having moved toward you without your beckoning. It is not a reward, you cannot earn it or call it to you or even deserve it, and yet it appears. Your only role is to be open-eyed and present. Gifts exist in a realm of humility and mystery, as with random acts of kindness, we do not know their source. Those fields of my childhood showered us with strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, hickory nuts in the fall, bouquets of wildflowers brought to my mom, and family walks on Sunday afternoon. They were our playground, retreat, wildlife sanctuary, ecology classroom, and the place where we learned to shoot tin cans off the stone wall, all for free, or so I thought. I experienced the world in that time as a gift economy, goods and services, not purchased but received as gifts from the earth. Of course, I was blissfully unaware of how my parents must have struggled to make ends meet in the wage economy raging far from this field.
In our family, the presents we gave one another were always homemade. I thought that was the definition of a gift, something you made for someone else. We made all our Christmas gifts, piggy banks from old Clorox bottles, hot pads from broken clothespins, and puppets from retired socks. My mother says it was because we had no money for store-bought presents. It didn't seem like a hardship to me. It was something special. My father loves wild strawberries, so for Father's Day, my mother would almost always make him strawberry shortcake. She baked the crusty shortcakes and whipped the heavy cream, but we kids were responsible for the berries. We each got an old jar or two and spent the Saturday before the celebration out in the fields, taking forever to fill them as more and more berries ended up in our mouths. Finally, we returned home and poured them out on the kitchen table to sort out the bugs. I'm sure we missed some, but Dad never mentioned the extra protein. In fact, he thought wild strawberry shortcake was the best possible present, or so he had us convinced. It was a gift that could never be bought. As children raised by strawberries, we were probably unaware that the gift of berries was from the fields themselves, not from us. Our gift was time and attention and care and red-stained fingers. Heartberries indeed.
Gifts from the earth or from each other establish a particular relationship, an obligation of sorts to give, to receive, and to reciprocate. The field gave to us, we gave to my dad, and we tried to give back to the strawberries. When the berry season was done, the plants would send out slender red runners to make new plants. Because I was fascinated by the way they would travel over the ground looking for good places to take root, I would weed out little patches of bare ground where the runners touched them. Sure enough, tiny little roots would emerge from the runner, and by the end of the season, there were even more plants ready to bloom under the next strawberry moon. No person taught us this. The strawberries showed us, because they had given us a gift, an ongoing relationship opened between us. Farmers around us grew a lot of strawberries and frequently hired kids to pick them for them. My siblings and I would ride our bikes along a way to Crandall's farm to pick berries to earn spending money, a dime for every quart we picked. But Mrs. Crandall was a persnickety overseer. She stood at the edge of the field in her bib apron and instructed us how to pick and warned us not to crush any berries. She had other rules too. These berries belong to me, she said, not to you. I don't want to see you kids eating my berries. I knew the difference. In the fields behind my house, the berries belonged to themselves. At this lady's roadside stand, she sold them for 60 cents a quart. It was quite a lesson in economics. We'd have to spend most of our wages if we wanted to ride home with berries in our bike baskets. Of course, those berries were 10 times bigger than our wild ones, but not nearly so good. I don't believe we ever put those farm berries in Dad's shortcake. It wouldn't have felt right.
It's funny how the nature of an object, let's say a strawberry or a pair of socks, is so changed by the way it has come into your hands, as a gift or as a commodity. The pair of wool socks that I buy at the store, red and gray striped, are warm and cozy. I might feel grateful for the sheep that made the wool and the worker who ran the knitting machine. I hope so. But I have no inherent obligation to those socks as a commodity, as a private property. There was no bond beyond the politely exchanged thank yous with the clerk. I have paid for them, and our reciprocity ended the minute I handed her the money. The exchange ends once parity has been established, an equal exchange. They become my property. I don't write a thank you note to J.C. Penney. But what if those very same socks, red and gray striped, were knitted by my grandmother and given to me as a gift? That changes everything. A gift creates ongoing relationship. I will write a thank you note. I will take good care of them, and if I'm very gracious grandchild, I will wear them when she visits, even if I don't like them. When it's her birthday, I will surely make her a gift in return. As the scholar and writer Lewis Hyde notes, it is the cardinal difference between gift and commodity exchange that a gift establishes a feeling bond between two people.
Wild strawberries fit the definition of gift, but grocery store berries do not. It is the relationship between producer and consumer that changes everything. As a gift thinker, I would be deeply offended if I saw wild strawberries in the grocery store. I would want to kidnap them all. They were not meant to be sold, only to be given. Hyde reminds us that in a gift economy, one's freely given gifts cannot be made into someone else's capital. I can see the headline now. Woman arrested for shoplifting produce. Strawberry liberation. Front claims responsibility. This is the same reason we do not sell sweetgrass, because it is given to us. It should only be given to others. My dear friend Wally Bear, Meshagod, is a ceremonial firekeeper for our people and uses a lot of sweetgrass on our behalf. There are folks who pick for him in a good way to keep him supplied, but even so, at a big gathering, sometimes he runs out. At powwows and fairs, you can see our own people selling sweetgrass for $10 a braid. When Wally really needs wingasak for a ceremony, he may visit one of those booths among the stalls selling fry bread or hanks of beads. He introduces himself to seller, explains his need, just as he would in a meadow, asking permissions of the sweetgrass. He cannot pay for it, not because he doesn't have the money, but because it cannot be bought or sold and still retain its essence for ceremony. He expects sellers to graciously give him what he needs, but sometimes they don't. The guy at the booth thinks he's being shaken down by an elder. Hey, you can't get something for nothing, he says. But that is exactly the point. A gift is something for nothing, except that certain obligations are attached. For the plant to be sacred, it cannot be sold. Reluctant entrepreneurs will get a teaching from Wally, but they'll never get his money. Sweetgrass belongs to Mother Earth. Sweetgrass pickers collect properly and respectfully for their own use and needs of their community. They returned a gift to the earth and tend to the well-being of the Winkashak. The braids are given as gifts to honor, to say thank you, to heal, and to strengthen. The sweetgrass is kept in motion. When Wally gives sweetgrass to the fire, it is a gift that has passed from hand to hand, growing richer as it is honored in every exchange.
That is the fundamental nature of gifts. They move and their value increases with their passage. The fields made a gift of berries to us, and we made a gift of them to our Father. The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes. This is hard to grasp for societies steeped in the notions of private property, where others are, by definition, excluded from sharing. Practices such as posting land against trespass, for example, are expected and accepted in a property economy, but are unacceptable in an economy where land is seen as a gift to all. Lewis Hyde wonderfully illustrates this dissonance in his exploration of the Indian giver. This expression, used negatively today as a pejorative for someone who gives something and then wants to have it back, eventually derives from a fascinating cross-cultural misinterpretation between an indigenous culture operating in a gift economy and a colonial culture predicted on the concept of private property. When gifts were given to the settlers by the native inhabitants, the recipients understood that they were valuable and were intended to be retained. Giving them away would have been an affront. But the indigenous people understood the value of a gift to be based in reciprocity and would be affronted if the gifts did not circulate back to them. Many of our ancient teachings counsel that whatever we have been given is supposed to be given away again.
From the viewpoint of a private economy, the gift is deemed to be free because we obtain it free of charge at no cost. But in the gift economy, gifts are not free. The essence of the gift is that it creates a set of relationships. The currency of a gift economy is at its roots reciprocity. In Western thinking, private land is understood to be a bundle of rights, whereas in a gift economy, property has a bundle of responsibilities attached. I was once lucky enough to spend time doing ecological research in the Andes. My favorite part was market day in the local village when the square filled with vendors. There were tables loaded with platanos, carts of fresh papaya, stalls in bright colors with pyramids of tomatoes, and buckets of hairy yucca roots. Other vendors spread blankets on the ground with everything you could need, from flip-flops to woven palm hats. Squatting behind her red blanket, a woman in a striped shawl and navy blue powder spread out medicinal roots as beautifully wrinkled as she was. The colors, the smell of corn roasting on a wood fire, and sharp limes, and the sounds of all the voices mingle wonderfully in my memory. I had a favorite stall where the owner, Edita, looked for me each day. She kindly explained how to cook unfamiliar items and pull out the sweetest pineapple she'd been saving under the table. Once she even had strawberries. I know that I paid the gringa prices, but the experience of abundance and goodwill were worth every peso.
I dreamed not long ago of that market with all its vivid textures. I walked through the stalls with a basket over my arm, as always, and went straight to Edita for a bunch of fresh cilantro. We chatted and laughed, and when I held out my coins, she waved them off, patting my arm and sending me away. A gift, she said. Muchas gracias, señora, I replied. There was my favorite panadera with clean cloths laid over the round loaves. I chose a few rolls, opened my purse, and this vendor, too, gestured away my money as if I were impolite to suggest paying. I looked around in bewilderment. This was my familiar market, and yet everything had changed. It wasn't just for me. No shopper was paying. I floated through the market with a sense of euphoria. Gratitude was the only currency accepted here. It was all a gift. It was like picking strawberries in my field. The merchants were just intermediaries passing on gifts from the earth.
I looked in my basket, 2 zucchinis, an onion, tomatoes, bread, and a bunch of cilantro. It was still half empty, but it felt full. I had everything I needed. I glanced over at the cheese stall, thinking to get some, But knowing it would be given, not sold, I decided I could do without. It's funny. Had all the things in the market merely been a very low price, I probably would have scooped up as much as I could. But when everything became a gift, I felt self-restraint. I didn't want to take too much. And I began thinking of what small presents I might bring to the vendors tomorrow. The dream faded, of course, but the feelings first of euphoria and then of self-restraint remain. I've thought of it often and recognize now that I was witness there to the conversion of a market economy to a gift economy, from private goods to commonwealth. And in that transformation, the relationships became as nourishing as the food I was getting. Across the market stalls and blankets, warmth and compassion were changing hands. There was a shared celebration of abundance for all we'd been given. And since every market basket contained a meal, there was justice.
I'm a plant scientist, and I want to be clear, but I am also a poet, and the world speaks to me in metaphor. When I speak of the gift of berries, I do not mean that Fragraria Virginania has been up all night making a present just for me, strategizing to find exactly what I'd like on a summer morning. So far as we know, that does not happen. But as a scientist, I am well aware of how little we do know. The plant has, in fact, been up all night, assembling little packets of sugar and seeds and fragrance and color, because when it does so, its evolutionary fitness is increased. When it is successful in enticing an animal such as me to disperse its fruit, its genes for making yumminess are passed on to ensuing generations with a higher frequency than those of the plant whose berries were inferior. The berries made by the plant shape the behaviors of the dispersers and have adaptive consequences. What I mean, of course, is that our human relationship with strawberries is transformed by our choice of perspective. It is human perception that makes the world a gift. When we view the world this way, strawberries and humans alike are transformed. The relationship of gratitude and reciprocity thus developed can increase the evolutionary fitness of both plant and animal. A species and a culture that treat the natural world with respect and reciprocity will surely pass on genes to ensuing generations with a higher frequency than the people who destroy it. The stories we choose to shape our behaviors have adaptive consequences.
Lewis Hyde has made extensive studies of gift economies. He finds that objects will remain plentiful because they are treated as gifts. A gift relationship with nature is a formal give and take that acknowledges our participation in and dependence upon natural increase. We tend to respond to nature as a part of ourselves, not a stranger or alien available for exploitation. Gift exchange is the commerce of choice, for it is commerce that harmonizes with or participates in the process of nature's increase. In the old times, when people's lives were so directly tied to the land, it was easy to know the world as gift. When fall came, the skies would darken with flocks of geese honking, "Here we are." It reminds the people of the creation story when the geese came to save Sky Woman. The people are hungry, winter is coming, and the geese fill the marshes with food. It is a gift, and the people receive it with thanksgiving, love, and respect.
But when the food does not come from a flock in the sky, when you don't feel the warm feathers cool in your hand and know that a life has been given for yours, when there is no gratitude in return, that food may not satisfy. It may leave the spirit hungry while the belly is full. Something is broken when the food comes on a styrofoam tray wrapped in slippery plastic. A carcass of a being whose only chance at life was a cramped cage. That is not a gift of life, it is a theft. How, in our modern world, we can find our way to understand the earth as a gift again, to make our relations with the world sacred again. I know we cannot all become hunter-gatherers, and the living world could not bear our weight, thank you. But even in a market economy, can we behave as if the living world were a gift? We could start by listening to Wally. There are those who will try to sell the gifts, but as Wally says of Sweetgrass for Sale, don't buy it. Refusal to participate is a moral choice. Water is a gift for all, not meant to be bought and sold. Don't buy it. When food has been wrenched from the earth, depleting the soil and poisoning our relatives in the name of higher yields, don't buy it.
In material fact, strawberries belong only to themselves. The exchange relationships we choose determine whether we share them as a common gift or sell them as a private commodity. A great deal rests on that choice. For the greater part of human history, and in places in the world today, common resources were the rule. But some invented a different story, a social construct in which everything is a commodity to be bought and sold. The market economy story has spread like wildfire, with uneven results for human well-being and devastation for the natural world. But it is just a story we have told ourselves, and we are free to tell another, to reclaim the old one. One of these stories sustains the living systems on which we depend. One of these stories opens the way to living in gratitude and amazement at the richness and generosity of the world. One of these stories asks us to bestow our own gifts in kind, to celebrate our kinship with the world. We can choose, if all the world is a commodity, how poor we grow. When all the world is a gift in motion, how wealthy we become.
In those childhood fields waiting for strawberries to ripen, I used to eat the sour white ones, sometimes out of hunger, but mostly from impatience. I knew the long-term results of my short-term greed, but I took them anyway. Fortunately, our capacity for self-restraint grows and develops like the berries beneath the leaves. So I learned to wait, a little. I remember lying on my back in the fields, watching the clouds go by and rolling over to check the berries every few minutes. When I was young, I thought the change might happen that fast. Now I am old and I know that transformation is slow. The commodity economy has been here on Turtle Island for 400 years, eating up the white strawberries and everything else. But people have grown weary of the sour taste in their mouths. A great longing is upon us to live again in a world made of gifts. I can scent it coming, like the fragrance of ripening strawberries rising on the breeze.
I'd like to say something about a part of the reading. Am I on? That caught my ear about how if she were to have to pay even a token amount for something, she would be sort of saying what a good deal she was getting and then buying a lot and filling her basket. And because it was a gift, she thought differently about it. And it's been my experience that people who are not raised with the cultural markers of gifts and of reciprocal giving and of that kind of mentality around mutual obligation, and who are trained or raised in a system that's all about hoarding and mine and possession and property, the colonial way of thinking, are unfamiliar with gift protocols. So yes, if you're given a gift, you kind of acknowledge that it's a gift and you appreciate it for what it is, but you don't like hoard it. You don't take more than you need. And I was just wondering if there were any like educators or people who work with children who would like to comment on messages that you can get in sort of behavioral protocols around gifts and how to be gracious around gifts.
I would love to address that, Ansu. I taught at Sequoia School in Pasadena for almost 20 years, a private alternative school. And every year I taught Spanish and outdoor education. And every year during my teaching, I taught through many different art projects. And I would ask the children to bring in materials from home to share if they had, or just special things for themselves. And I would give them each a plastic bag with their name on it, and they would show us what they brought in. And then I would begin handing out things that I brought from home, shells or beads or small gourds or all kinds of strange, unusual things. And as the children began accumulating things, they then felt they had enough to share, and they began sharing. And they shared generously. And each year, when I continued this practice, it was one of the first things that the classroom teachers asked for each year. Would you do your gift exchange of materials to teach the children this way of thinking? But it didn't take long. The children internalized that, and they taught the other children as much as anything I did by a demonstration. And that became a tradition in the school every year for our art projects. And it's interesting that it has to be learned. You're right. It's a acculturation. You have to have a demonstration or a model of that in order for that to be embraced and enjoyed and celebrated. And the sense of abundance, it grows. And then the shared accomplishment of everyone's things together, the stone soup being celebrated and tasted by everyone. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because it's a profound shift.
I remember I had the same profound shift by visiting Repair Cafe in Pasadena, and I felt, why are these people giving their time away for free, and why is there a really, really free market? And it just seems so crazy. But after a little time, you learn it just by doing it, and you want to give back. So when I was teaching about Repair Cafe, I taught about, I don't know, 6 or 8 adults about it. And I took stickers, lots of stickers that I had plenty of, so that I could have them experience the gift economy. And I gave each of them one page of stickers, but everybody's was different. And then I asked them to go around and share their stickers with each other. And so, I mean, you know, it's a pretty small example, but it worked okay. Thanks.
I love that question so much because I think about it a lot as an educator as well. And what I've noticed is that, like, I think, like, as a side conversation, if you wanted to talk more about it, I think it's really, really vital to weave reverence and devotion into curriculum, because it's such an important and natural way of being a human being. And our children are wired for it. And something I've noticed something more particular is when you have multi-generational learning, when middle schoolers are able to read aloud or teach younger students, and when younger students are able to interview or teach older generations, asking them questions, interviewing, and then maybe guiding through poetry practices or anything, this innate reverence comes through. And in the places that it doesn't, you can help shape it. And it's so, children are so responsive to that shaping, because it's about engaging with people younger and people older, and that just brings out something really beautiful. So I think that that's a really important way of learning as well, and brings up that feeling of like giving through that feeling of gratitude, and for the joy of it.
What's coming to my mind is that through this conversation about the ways in which it might be taught or learned, it's interesting to me that it has to be taught or learned, because when you look at how life works, or quote unquote nature, the gift economy, the ways of giving and receiving, the reciprocity, the symbiotic nature of flows of life and death, etc. It's something that happens so fluidly, and something that happens like it's working towards, in my mind, as a non-scientific thinker, whatever, it's something that's always working towards some sort of balance in the greater scheme of things. And so when you think about the gift economy, you can see it as something that is closer to that kind of flow of life and of existence. But then if you look at a capitalist system of economy, it makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. It's like what she was saying about merchants being this middle person between giving and receiving, and not about it being like, I don't know, when you think about capital and the way that capital works and the flows of capitalism, it truly doesn't replicate or come close to anything that's natural to life. It is so deeply just like wrong. And through capitalism and through the economy structured as such, I feel like it really separates us from something innate to who we are as people and to our life, and our existence as well. So it's more than a teaching. Maybe it's like in the last chapter she said that when you smell, the last chapter we read together last week, she said, when you smell sweetgrass, you remember things that you didn't know you had forgotten. And I feel like the gift economy is almost that, like a remembering of things that we didn't know we had forgotten, rather than a learning fresh from a fresh start or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have such an impoverished basic ecological teaching in our school system, one that is not even locally referenced often, and certainly one that objectifies it, nature, and doesn't give us the message that we are of nature, that it even impairs our sight to be able to make that meaningful connection with the way life is and how we live. And certainly so many children are so divorced from nature in the way that they're raised. But unfortunately, I think that human society creates our own ecology that we interact in. And so cultural stories and cultural teaching become so paramount in that regard about how to live well. I mean, we've lost our reference to nature in so many, ways, because we are surrounded by the grandeur of human mind creations, but the warped messages of a market economy result in, in adults who really feel that even being given a gift is a compromise, because all of a sudden they're put in a position like, what does this mean? Do I have to give something back? Or it's not they don't fully understand the comportment of how to operate in a gift economy. And I appreciate what Anjali said about referring back to the spiritual reference point, because there's also a huge element in the education system that completely devalues and silences the spiritual education, which is so critical to understanding how to be a huge, a holistic, good person in this earth. So yeah, on many levels, I agree with you. Capitalism and that scientific divorce from allowing spirituality and aesthetic beauty and visceral sensation and a sense of mutual obligation to ancestral tradition, all of that is carved out from the scientific worldview. And that's what's promulgated in the education system as advancement and progress.
Next week.
Hi, everybody. This is Rochelle. Can you hear me? I've been trying to get unmuted.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Jen. Good troubleshooting. Hi. It is Rochelle calling in from Metabolic Studio via New York. And I really wanted to contribute about the gift economy and working as Lauren's project manager during Strawberry Flag and seeing the transformation happen with people bringing in gifts that they had to give and offering them to veterans who were in treatment at the West LA VA home hospital in Brentwood, to wrap them, and then offering the opportunity for homeless veterans to wrap one gift and then to take a gift that was already wrapped to give to another veteran. And what an amazing project and program and mapping that was of generosity and of intention. This was back in, I believe, Lauren, I think 2010, 11.
2010. At the height of the war on terror.
The height of the war on terror.
On a place called Home for Veterans without a home.
Right. Exactly. So what Lauren did was quite remarkable. I mean, basically she set up an entire, if you can imagine a television studio set up to be home for the holidays in a place that had just opened up, which was very much like an emergency room, an old folks home that had no no tenderness, no life whatsoever. And Lauren turned it into a home for the holidays with a piano and gingerbread making and a fireplace and all of us wrapping gifts that were given from people in the community. So everybody brought in brand new things, socks and toothpaste and shirts and pants and, you know, anything that they had for us to wrap and have the homeless veterans wrap. And it was in the brand new and very, very sterile environment of the California Veterans Home, which was new and was really designated for senior citizen veterans who were of a different era. But fortunately, Lauren's project welcomed in veterans who were from all over the campus and were from all different wars and all different walks of life, which was really fascinating. So they would come in and they would sign in and they would help us bake gingerbread and maybe play the piano and then wrap a gift and then get a gift. If they wrapped a gift, they got a gift to give. And what they did is they made a chart on our map of where they were giving the gift. So still at Metabolic Studio, we kind of have a map of where the gift was that they selected to give, and how amazing that was to be able to be a part of a place where there was nothing like home, and home was a temporary shelter. You know, it was like what do they call it? A cot and three hot meals a day for people to really get some kind of a grounding of normalcy and of being able to have the opportunity to give back and not just be absorbing from a system that couldn't really sustain them. So I just wanted to say, being part of that, and that was something that went on from before Christmas until well after the New Year, into I think mid-January of 2011, was a place where the veterans can not only come and get a gift to give, but also hang out, get a cup of tea, have some companionship, get some music, get some gingerbread, and have a feeling of reciprocity. And I was really amazed and floored by being part of that project. So just wanted to contribute. Thanks.
I'm liking what's happening on Stefano's screen right now.
Yeah, anyone who wants to get a closer look, feel free to pin Stefano's screen. He's got some videos from our Living Systems archive activating throughout the session. I believe that was summer of 2020, I was putting seeds for native plants into containers at home. We were all in lockdown pretty hard at that point. And then
I don't know if I can talk.
Roxanne, you sound like God.
I think the feedback is maybe too much. What do you think? Okay. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just about Strawberry Flag, when we first started, all the gifts, all the strawberry plants were gifts to us, which then generated the whole project at the VA. So when I heard about the reading today, immediately I thought about that whole gift of a project that started with the gift of strawberries to us, that we were then able to put forward and generate new plants. And so I don't want to go into the whole project because I think we've talked about it, and Rochelle brought some further development of the project up. But it certainly was a gift getting those strawberries in the field and meeting everybody there, and the continuing engagement at the VA came out of the concept of a gift. But something else that came up for me today in the reading was that I really understood in becoming a mother when the gift of being able to lactate and feed your child was a revelation to me, and that so much of the world is deprived of that gift with the um, notion that we need to buy food. I mean, essentially, you don't have to pay for anything for the first 8 months, as long as you're, or longer. Some feed longer, but I didn't give my child any food for 8 months, and that was just the gift of being nourished myself and being able to feed another life. And it's the biggest lesson in what it is to live from nature as a gift. So I just wanted to, yeah, and the importance of the way the nipple um, comes into the baby's mouth, and how it then triggers movement and mobility for the baby, and physicality in the world is all part of that connection to nature, that we're all hopefully, born into that possibility. Some people can't, and if you're, if you're fed with formula, it is possible to learn how to interact differently with the world, but it's the first physical relationship with the world that then changes how we changes our mobility completely. So.
I'd like to take this moment and share this week's embroidery of the week. This is a part of our underground series. This is the Mycelium Network Carbon Exchange. And one of the reasons why I chose this, it's simply stunning, but also for those of you that are going to receive kits this week, these are some of the patterns that are going out. So I wanted to share with you just an approach that someone took on, and it's so elegant. It's just two shades of green, and then the gray ring for the microscope, and I just thought that was just so lovely. So for those of you that requested them last week, if you haven't received them already, they should be there hopefully tomorrow. And this is maybe one of the patterns you'll be receiving.
Hey, Jen, whose is that?
Oh, sorry. It's Dana Siegel.
So beautiful.
And can I just share the back? It's just extraordinary. And I say this because mine never looked like this. Mine looked like a big nest of string. But this is just as beautiful on the front as it is in the back.
Fantastic. Beautiful.
I put this in the chat, but just to share it out loud. Next week we'll be reading from the chapter Asters and Goldenrod, which is about Kimmer's experience with entering college and studying science in an academic framework with rigidity and kind of like an expectation of science that was always different than the one she had growing up, of beauty and love and care and curiosity, and what it meant for her to have to shift from something that was so inherent to who she was as a person, beyond just a scientist or a student, but as a person in the world, to kind of shed these ideas that were so integral to her in order to carve out a space for herself in the scientific world. So yeah, she talks about balancing that in a really wonderful way, and it was just, I just wanted to bring it up because what you had said last, Ansu, was just speaking directly to that. So it's a very natural evolution into next week's text. And I hope to see you all there.
What advice do you give when people, and taking these very broad ideas about our relationship with nature when it comes to very pragmatic and specific choices, what's the advice you give to someone who wants to re-inhabit and become native to their place, their farm, their ranch? How do you answer that question?
It's a beautiful question, to think that you have this piece of land that you want to re-inhabit. And I love how you said that. To re-inhabit it, make it your home, which means, I think, becoming indigenous to place, which means restoring your relationship. So when you first began asking that question of, what's your first response to having a piece of land and saying, what should I do with it? Seems like an easy answer, but the first answer is to love it. Just really love it. And all of the things that that entails, particularly paying attention, get to know all of the plants and animals and rocks and water on your land. That is a human gift, paying attention. And that art of natural history gets us to know each of those pieces. And then when you know those pieces, the idea of creating relationship, you have to know who they are in order to create relationship. And then if your next step is to say, how do I care for this land? How might I restore this land? It can be driven by the citizens who are already living there, not driven by you. You can, once you have a relationship with those oaks, you can say, well, what do you need to flourish? So I think loving it, paying attention to it, and then having those organisms be partners in restoration to it.
Night.
Good night.